The music program at Congregation Shaar Hashomayim burst onto the world stage in 2016 with the release of Leonard Cohen's final album, You Want It Darker, which features cantor Gideon Zelermyer and the Shaar Choir on 2 tracks. However, anyone who has attended a Shabbat or holiday service at the Shaar in the past 20 years has enjoyed some of the highest quality Jewish choral music in the world, thanks in no small part to our collaboration with sound consultant Roger J.
I started out in sound after college at the New York Shakespeare Festival, and I did all the sound for them for a few years, downtown, off-Broadway, on Broadway, at the Lincoln Center, at the Delacorte in Central Park.
Roger moved to Montreal shortly thereafter and married a member of a generational Shaar family.
As I started coming to high holiday celebrations at the Shaar, I was startled and unhappy at the quality of the sound system. So I volunteered to help out, and they worked with me and I worked with them in designing a new system which we put in here at the sanctuary in 1995. We really improved the listening experience for the congregation. We've constantly improved the system based on technology as it became available. Right up until a year or so before the pandemic started, which was when we really managed to get the system in here working exquisitely well, in my opinion. Plus, we had to be sure that we were in accordance with the Zomet regulations from the Zomet Institute in Israel, that our system didn't violate any of the strictures they have against using sound systems on Shabbat. So that brings us up to the pandemic, which is when everything changed.
As the entire world began to isolate, the Shaar made the difficult decision to cancel in-person services, initially for the health and safety of our members, and subsequently to abide by government restrictions on gathering. It quickly became clear that we would need to devise a solution for in-person choral services that allowed for safe choral singing until such time as we were through this pandemic.
The situation in a choir in Washington State in the United States was exemplary of what could occur from what became a super spreader event, because singing more than speaking throws particles into the atmosphere and is shared by everyone in the common space. So we were looking at a situation before it was restricted to how many people could be in the synagogue, that just singing could create a serious problem, and having a choir grouped on the bima was out of the question. Having a choir grouped in the choir loft was out of the question for safety among themselves.
Roger was tasked with devising a solution that allowed for a critical mass of the choir to perform in services without risk either to the choristers or congregation. His solution?
To have individual choir booths in the choir loft to service 6 singers, which is a little more than half the 11-man choir.
Consulting with former director of music Stephen Glass and trusted contacts at Eventex Productions, Roger devised a 42-inch square booth, large enough for each chorister to comfortably perform, but small enough that 6 such booths would fit into the choir loft. The booths had the added benefit of providing Roger with a sonic element that had previously not been available.
The dream is always to have the cantor sound and the choir sound mix as though it were a recording with exactly the right level for each. So I got very excited about the possibility of creating a situation where we could have that kind of live mix, which we'd never really been able to accomplish before.
Given the purpose of the booths, the design had to prioritize proper ventilation for the safety of both choir and congregation.
Ventilation was critical, and it had to be active ventilation. We knew that very early in the pandemic, that air has to be withdrawn and exhausted from the space. Uncontaminated air has to be brought in. Well, that wasn't too hard, just to have the bottom of the choir booth not touch the ground, so air would come in from the bottom, and there would have to be an exhaust fan with a hose high up, because the choir loft, thankfully, has windows, and we could vent those output fans right out the window into the atmosphere outside the building, so we would actually have individual air for each choir member that was not mixed with anyone else's air.
Each booth was then outfitted with all of the necessary components for choristers to be able to do their jobs.
It had to be large plexiglass windows so that they could see the choir master and all the nuances and all the rhythm that he was transmitting to them. There had to be a methodology for them to hear what was going on, especially when they were singing with the cantor. So we had to put in headphones for them to monitor each other and the cantor's sound. And of course, we had to add microphones at a distance that would pick them up in a sweet way. That wouldn't be like a close mic situation, but it would be an individually mic situation that could be mixed to create the usual choir sound for 6 men without having any voice stand out, but having each voice present in the mix. And the amazing thing was that they adapted so rapidly that within the time of building the booths to using the booths, it was under a week that the assembly of the situation and then the first service where we used them took place. And the highest accolade we got was that the choir members said we wouldn't have been able to participate, we wouldn't have felt safe without those booths. So we knew we were doing the right thing and heading in the right direction. The choir is an integral part of our worship services, and it's a beautiful part of the service as well. So it was really worth the effort to make sure we were able to provide a musical experience at each service, especially on the high holidays, because we've been doing that at the Shaar since 1887 with an unbroken record of adding the musical aspect of the service. And to be able to continue that even through a pandemic was very important, and it was great that it was successful based on how we were able to do the technical necessities to make the artistry operable.